Awesome server was an unrecorded series started by Damien, with it lasting from the 4th of April 2023 to circa late July 2023, being the precursor to the smaller and shorter Awesome server 2. Its members were Damien, Gavin, Blake, Zarina, Sebastian, and Christian, with the server being owned by Damien. This is the history and story of the Awesome server, which could be summarized as a battle between the Green State, Damien and Christian, and the Free Council, Gavin, Blake, Zarina, and Sebastian, for control over the land, along with the corruption that follows such a goal. The Awesome server started with humble beginnings, with it being quite calm to begin with. Damien and Sebastian first spawned on an island with birch trees. Notably, Sebastian found a village in the first couple days, with Damien following him to reside there with him. Sebastian would begin his house, but Damien would reside in a villager's house, which would be instrumental later in the series due to its height and underground region. Additionally, at around this time, Gavin and Christian would join the server. This village was situated on a large hill next to a mountain in the north, with the hill tapering off to a river to the south and some flat land to the southwest. On the east, it led to a taiga, which would become a major source for wood later in the series, along with being the location of the later estate. This hill would be later known as the Green Hill, otherwise known as the Hill. In the beginning, Damien would make a small extension to his village house, with him carving out a major section underground to make room for a large wheat farm to provide food for the entire community, and, later, his workers. This underground area would become very important later on due to it housing the first cleansing facilities. Her own house to the west of the village. She would only log on once or twice during this time before going on hiatus for a very, very long time, though she will come back later. Her house would not be finished during this time, with this becoming a joke throughout the series because it was in a very prime spot, yet no one wanted to get rid of it because that would be very mean. Damien's first usage of creative mode was to be funny to Sebastian's old little house, with him stealing things and pillaging from it beforehand. He would burn it, explode it, and make it so Sebastian would need another house, causing confusion later on. This usage of creative mode was very early on, and caused hysteria due to all other members of the server now knowing that Damien could do whatever he wanted, and would do if he was upset. Sebastian would create a new house due to his old one mysteriously disappearing, with him making it directly eastward of Damien's village house. It was a village house with some extensions, with him living in it for a bit. Because Damien was still being very silly to him, Sebastian would make leave to an unspecified location and would make a summer home to reside in for a brief period of time, leaving his old house and old belongings alone on the Green Hill. His summer home has never been found or fully documented. Zarina joined the server at about the same time Blake did, with her stealing Sebastian's house due to him being gone in his summer home, with it being altered to be in the style of a log cabin due to the abundance of spruce trees to the east of the Green Hill. At around this time, Damien began to think of how to gain more power in the server, with them deciding on needing to form a group to do so. However, at the moment, issues involving stealing and hitting others were very prevalent, resulting in Zarina proposing the creation of a few treaties regarding prior drama. The Free Council was founded by Zarina following the original treaties as a way to format and implement laws. The Free Council was designed in a way as to mitigate hierarchy and prevent one party from taking too much power. This mission would change as the Free Council moved to directly represent non-Green State members and ensure the Green State wouldn't try a totalitarian takeover. The Free Council's flag was a black banner with a large red cross, the black symbolizing political anarchy and voluntary cooperation, and the red symbolizing equality and order. The Free Council established laws and acts for all members regardless of alignment to follow, with the most influential ones being 1. Laws managing PvP activity and griefing. 2. Acts ensuring political alignment without fear of external interference. 3. Acts managing land ownership and laws pertaining around such. And, most importantly, 1. If someone abandons the stipulations set forth by the Free Council, they are no longer ensured by the Free Council's rules. This rule was the only one implemented by Zarina and Damien alone without revision from the other council members. It severely limited the power of the Green State, causing tensions to rise between the unaligned members and the Green State. This rule would start a cat and mouse game between the Green State's goals and the Free Council's mission. The Free Council would take steps to ensure all members' rights and ensure peace. This would conflict with the Green State's goal of totalitarianism, wholesome. The Green State was formed because of Damien's want to gain more power, being a totalitarian state from the start, with him planning from the beginning to expand it at a later time. When it was first formed, the Green State was fully independent, with it having its own laws and land, though it was not fully recognized by the Free Council. At the beginning of its life, Christian would be added as a Green State member due to Damien asking him to join it. This would cause major economic and political effects later on in the server's history. Sebastian would also join the Green State, but his admission would be very controversial due to him somewhat being forced into it. Gavin, however, would not be added due to him saying no. The first major project by the Green State would be the building of the Workers' House, with it housing Sebastian and Christian for as long as they worked for the Green State, per the contract formed by Damien. The Green State performed acts against general morals, particularly stealing and using labor with minimum payment. The Green State also quickly tried to expand and gain more land, with the biggest gain being a large mountain to the southeast and a large amount of taiga to the east of the Green Hill. This caused tensions between the Green State and other members of the server, as they saw it as unwholesome. Sebastian did not want to be part of the Green State anymore, resulting in him leaving the state, though his initial admission is debatable. When he left, however, he claimed ownership over the Workers' House due to him living in it for a long time and because he thought it was compensation for Damien's destruction of his old little house. But Damien battled this claim due to the initial contracts stating that, to live in the house, one would need to be working for Damien. Furthermore, Damien had owned the house himself. Sebastian, however, continued to push his claim, with him living in the house despite Damien not agreeing with this. This resulted in a major increase in tension between Sebastian and Damien, with it continuing to grow with time. During the house incident, Gavin was in his Jew arc, with him and Zarina deciding to build Auschwitz on an island to the east of the spawn island. This was their main effort for a short time, as they quickly built it. Gavin was very proud of it. Gavin also began to make a railway to Auschwitz that would pass through the northern mountain of Green Hill, but he would halt production due to an absence of resources. Auschwitz would become part of the server that would never be traveled to due to obvious reasons, but it was something that was always joked about due to how bad and awful it was. The estate was a long-term project that was headed by Damien with assistance from Christian, who, for his labor, would be given a room in the estate to reside in during and after its construction, as long as he worked on the project. Situated in the western taiga, the estate would be a mansion whose walls were made of spruce logs with a stone base, partial stone ceiling, and a glass roof. The reason for the construction of the estate would not be said for a long time, as Damien didn't want anyone to know why it was being made, often stating, "You'll see once it's done." During its framework stage, Christian would help a large deal with the estate, however he would later not begin to play on the server as much, leading to him no longer helping build the estate, though he would still be allowed to live in it because Damien decided to be wholesome. The estate's construction would be the Green State's major project for a long time. The relationship between Sebastian, Zarina, and Damien would be the force that would cause a lot of the conflict and change in the awesome server. Sebastian and Damien's arguing over who owned the Workers' House resulted in increased efforts to try and get the house, such as Damien threatening Sebastian, and Sebastian doing some trolling to Damien. Zarina would often troll and play with Damien by getting close to stealing his stuff, though Damien would do the same back to be funny. Sebastian would also have issues with Zarina due to her stealing his old house while he was away in his summer home. These tensions would grow with time, resulting in hate in almost all parties. Because of growing tensions between Sebastian and Zarina, Damien decided that it would be time for the Green State to attack the Free Council in an effort to both fully occupy the Workers' House and to enforce rules and make it so Sebastian and Zarina wouldn't be so unwholesome to him. To do this with little opposition, he used his quirky admin powers to go into creative mode. He claimed a lot of land via placing Green State flags, notably on what would later be the Browntown Summit, burned trees, placed a bunch of lava, and blew up the summit of the northern mountain, along with some of the base to the north of Zarina's house. Another major target was the old meeting quarters for the Free Council, which was burnt and blown up, with Green State flags being placed all over it. Coincidentally, around this time, Zarina downloaded a funny little hacker client to combat Sebastian, because that's funny, but then realized that there was a bigger threat to attack, the Green State. She used it to combat Damien, but it was to little avail. Afterwards, the client went away and was only used once more during GSFC War II. After defeat, because it was a very unfair war, the Free Council and the Green State came together to try and mediate via a peace conference. This resulted in the Free Council officially merging with the Green State in an equal relationship known primarily as the Green State Free Council, or GSFC. The Green State merged with the Free Council to form the Green State Free Council. Both were still independent entities in terms of who they ruled and what laws they made for their own groups, but the GSFC was used as a little group to make laws that would be present in both groups. Because the war was started over Sebastian, Zarina, and Damien tensions, rules were made more clear to make things more fair for all of them. To end the war via a peace treaty, one major request from the Green State was to make it so Zarina would take responsibility for what caused the war, specifically that it was them that began the war via burning and the sword. As a result of this, officially, the Green State did not begin GSFC War I, but it can be interpreted as them starting it, which is what has been done here. A library storing laws and acts passed by the Free Council and the Green State had existed before GSFC War I, but it was very tiny and kinda dumb looking. It didn't have a roof for some reason, and was in dire need of remodeling. Furthermore, the books in the library weren't written very well, nor were they formatted well, nor did they even explain things well, so it was generally agreed upon to begin recording things better and making sure that there were no misunderstandings in the records. Some of the major laws passed and results of the peace treaty were: 1. The Green State is now fully recognized as autonomous. 2. The Green State now has equal power in the GSFC. 3. Because of having equal power, the Green State can now more effectively spread its goal across the land. 4. Damien can no longer use his admin/creative mode. 5. Because the Green State had access to creative mode, it would be used as a threat to unaligned members. 6. Gavin becomes judge of the server with the intention to build a courthouse being made. Due to motivation from finally being fully recognized and having equal say in the GSFC, a lot of work from Damien was given to the construction of the estate, with them finally finishing the exterior. Most of the interior was also finished, with some rooms not being fully furnished, such as the bedroom, the smelter room, and the stair room, but important rooms such as the Riches room, Christian's room, and the mini room were fully complete. At this time, it was finally revealed what the purpose of the estate was, being that it was created as a meeting room for the previous Free Council, but now being for the GSFC. This request to be the host for it was fully accepted, with all future meetings taking place in the estate. Additionally, everyone who was part of the GSFC was given a flag to represent them. Because Gavin became judge of the server, it was now finally time to resolve the workers' house ownership dispute between Damien and Sebastian. The original case was written, however, due to later events, the document is now lost, so summary for the case is as follows. Damien's case. Only people who work for Damien are allowed to live in the house. The ownership of the house was never transferred. Sebastian's case. Lived in the house for a fairly long time. Saw the house as compensation for his old little house that was destroyed. In the end, after about an hour and a half, Damien finally won the case, settling a major event that had pushed much of the server's events. This resulted in Sebastian being very angry and aggravated, making Damien very happy because it's very funny. Sebastian would hold a grudge against the house for the rest of the server's history due to this. After the settlement of the house case, a series of peaceful times followed due to there being few issues within the server. During this period, a lot of happiness and wholesomeness appeared, such as Gavin finishing his house, Sebastian beginning his own house, and Damien converting the workers' house into a courtroom for Gavin, including green flags. The Awesome server had generally large progression during this time due to the little chaos happening in the server, with this being the last peaceful time in the server's history. At this point, in terms of strength, Zarina had the best armor, equipment, and the sword, due to her having diamond armor and weapons. There was little that could be done to oppose her. Politically, both the Free Council and the Green State were powerful, but the Green State was gaining a fair amount of new power due to finishing the estate and owning the courtroom, along with making a lot of the documents and distributing most of the food from Damien's underground wheat farm. During the peaceful time, a lot of new ideas were being spread around, with one of the most prominent being anti-Sebastianism, the hatred of Sebastian. Because of his actions in the past, and because of Damien's history of making fun of Sebastian, many began to acquire prejudice towards Sebastian, culminating in hurting and generally annoying Sebastian. This, however, could not be done to its fullest potential due to the Free Council's laws, so it was kept relatively tame at this time, though this would change later. One of the major supporters of the anti-Sebastian movement was the Green State due to it being led by Damien, who, as mentioned before, had a history of making fun of and purposely annoying Sebastian. Later, the Green State began to verbally attack Sebastian, along with making the anti-Sebastian flag, which was hung on areas on which Sebastian was not welcome. If Sebastian were to enter, then he would be hurt or forced out of the location. The anti-Sebastian movement caused many important events later in the server's history. Because the estate and the courtroom were finished, the Green State began a new project, being the Sky Empire. Almost all of the land on the Green Hill was communal, meaning that the Green State could not own any of it or try to own any of it without causing another war or major issues for the Green State, which would end the peaceful times, with this being unwholesome. As a result, the Green State built a ladder on the side of the courtroom that would lead up to a staircase leading to a chain of buildings that were above the buildings on the floor. Because there were no restrictions on making buildings in the air, these buildings were owned by the Green State and were intended to be used for housing and government buildings, but they were ultimately not used at this time. After the creation of the Sky Empire, the Green State ran out of stuff to do, so it tried to implement a market with the crater on the northern mountain. With this was the establishment of a currency being emeralds, which would later be called M, but they were simply known as emeralds at the time. The market was barely started, with the currency also not gaining much traction due to all other members not wanting to support the Green State's efforts. The market was then mostly left alone for the rest of the server. Because the peaceful times had went on for a while, and because not much of crazy interest was occurring in the server, D-Man felt that it was about time to cost something. The Green State had an equal amount of power in the GSFC, and he knew that the Green State could expand, both in terms of power and also land within the GSFC. Anti-Sebastianism had been on the rise in the server, with many areas prohibiting Sebastian from entering them, along with people generally hating Sebastian and trying to annoy him as much as possible. The Green State was also aware that, out of everyone, Sebastian would be the hardest to convert to its ideology, so the logical plan to make advance was to attack Sebastian. Prior to the explosion, Damien had put traps outside of Sebastian's house to try and destroy it in a secret manner, particularly with a dispenser that would dispense a flint and steel to burn the house, though this did not work. Along with a small TNT trap, with this also not working. None of the efforts worked, so Damien took greater measures. Damien placed a large quantity of TNT and lit it, exploding essentially all of Sebastian's house, along with all of his possessions. Sebastian was extremely mad at the event, though he was mainly shocked. He tried to alert others about it due to Damien using admin to explode the house, with this being against the rules. After the exploding of Sebastian's house, Damien laughed a lot and tried to find Sebastian because he ran away and was not found. This was when it was discovered that Sebastian had burned down the library, destroying all of its records and documents. This made Damien very angry as they were essential to the server, but it also made him very happy due to getting rid of many of the important GSFC documents, meaning that it could be reconstructed easily. After putting out the fire in the library, it was found that Sebastian had went and burned the estate, with this being highly effective due to the mansion mainly being made out of spruce logs. At this time, he also stole all of the internal flags, hiding them under an azalea tree. This made Damien significantly angry, with this breaking him, making him realize that now was the time to expand the Green State because there was little to hold back. A lot of stuff was burnt and destroyed, including filling lava in the northern crater and creating a large ravine in an area directly east of Zarina's house. Sebastian's crater was further destroyed. Gavin would come on later in the day and was extremely confused because a lot of stuff was destroyed and lost that day. Because of there essentially being no reason for the Green State to not begin operations of mass destruction, immediately after the burning of the estate and the burning of the library, the Green State officially transformed into la première ondulation verte, with this becoming the official name of the state, informally known as the Green State and LPLV also. Furthermore, the official leader of la première ondulation verte was also given the title of Domini, with Damien now officially being known as Domini Damien, as would appear in official documents from the state's creation forward. La première ondulation verte flags were also quickly added to the outside of all buildings associated with the state. Major changes within the state include making it so French is now one of the official languages of la première ondulation verte, along with making it so all signs, buildings, and the sort on the state's land must be written in both English and French, which made other members mad because French is stinky. For example, the estate was also called Le Manoir. La première ondulation verte also fully endorsed and began fully promoting and forcing anti-Sebastianism to all other members of the server in an effort to get him to join La première ondulation verte as a member. La première ondulation verte also became significantly more totalitarian in an effort to accomplish the former Green State's goal of trying to rule over everyone within the server. Reactions to La première ondulation verte were generally negative due to the nature of the state, with Sebastian, Gavin, and Zarina all showing disapproval towards it. Damien, however, was happy with how the Green State had transformed, because this was the penultimate step to beating the Free Council. La première ondulation verte's flag looks very similar to Anarch or Primitism's flag, with this being a complete accident. Zarina's flag was the Ancom / like the other one's flag, with Damien choosing La première ondulation verte's design due to him thinking that the black pattern looked cool with the green. Not only was there a want from La première ondulation verte to have Sebastian join the state, but there was also a great want from the state to have everyone else in the server to join it too, with the state asking others to join shortly after its creation. The reaction to this question, however, was generally negative due to the general feeling about the state itself. Because of this, La première ondulation verte began to ramp up measures to try and get the others in the server to join the state. One reason for this want was the thought that the other members of the state were impure due to them not having the green blood within them, making them bad and evil. As a result, it was only necessary for la première ondulation verte to cleanse the other members of the impure blood to make them be good, as they would gain the green blood, although it would be to a lesser extent and not pure green blood, as they were not original members of the state. Their blood would be significantly less tainted. This began the cleansing. Damien thought the only way to confirm the admission of everyone into the group was to force them into it by making it so they couldn't play anymore until they joined by both saying such and signing a document of admission. To do this, Damien used his op powers to gain access to bedrock and make the underground facilities, tiny rooms of, on average, approximately 10 square meters each, whose walls were purely comprised of bedrock, with beds and torches to keep light within the rooms. Each of the rooms had a sign titled Sans Impure above the entrance, which would be blocked off once one entered. The underground facilities were located under Damien's house in the wheat farm, with them being built into the walls of the area. One was located under Serena's house, with there being an entrance to it from above to give a sneak peek of it to her before the cleansing would begin. This facility was also piercing itself into the original Free Council meeting room, allowing many others to see the facility before its usage. The underground facilities were attempted to be used against Sebastian first, however he was never successfully converted, nor was anyone else. No one was successfully ever led into the underground facilities, as the original attempts had Damien trying to lead them into it willingly. As a result of this, Damien began to develop a new way of forcing others into la première ondulation verte. As a direct sequel to the underground facilities, the Sky facility was constructed to be better and more successful than the underground facilities. The Sky facility's purpose was the same as the underground facilities, however it was built as an extension into the Sky Empire. The Sky facility was originally intended on being a bank, being made for the market. However, due to the market never becoming much of a thing, the bank was converted into the Sky facility. It had spruce wood supports on its sides and a bedrock ceiling, floor, and walls. The Sky facility too had beds and torches inside, but it also featured la première ondulation verte flags that adorned the walls. Unlike the underground facilities, admission to the Sky facility would not be done willingly. Rather, admission to the facility would be done via commands from Damien to make it so there was no fussing about getting in it. Damien began forcing members of the server into the Sky facility, beginning with Sebastian, as it would take the longest and most effort to get into la première ondulation verte. Sebastian initially did not want to be in the state, with there being much opposition. As a result, Damien added Gavin into the Sky facility, who quickly joined the state to get out of the facility, becoming the third member of the state. Zerina was quickly added after him, with her also joining quickly because she didn't want to be in there either. The admission of Sebastian took multiple days and much effort from Damien, but eventually he gave in and agreed to join the state in exchange for getting a house. Damien was quite ecstatic at this, with this being la première ondulation verte's biggest victory in both its history and the Green State's history. The admission of Blake via the Sky facility was never done, as she was now online. The admission of all these members made Damien very happy, resulting in la première ondulation verte becoming much more prosperous and powerful. An important result of the cleansing was that Damien would almost permanently stay in creative mode until the end of the series, make it so he had infinite power and infinite access to items. Because there was little point to it anymore, Zerina, who was the de facto head of the Free Council, completely transferred all power from the Free Council to la première ondulation verte, including all laws, acts, agreements, and members. As a result of this, Blake became a member of la première ondulation verte via technicality. This agreement proved to be instrumental, as it would forever changed the future of the server, as though there is no notable opposition to la première ondulation verte anymore, resulting in la première ondulation verte gaining its goal: complete control of the server and its land, along with having every member of the server being a member of the state. Serena would be Damien's right-hand woman for a while, helping spread and Sebastian and helping make new infrastructure for la première ondulation verte. This would make their friendship much greater. One of the major events of the cleansing was the burning of the original Free Council flag on a bedrock block located in the market, sealing the group's end. Because the Free Council was fully absorbed by la première ondulation verte, the state wanted to change the name of the council as it didn't fit the theme of la première ondulation verte. As a result, the Free Council was renamed to the Green Council / le Conseil Vert. The Green Council was headquartered within the estate, replacing the Free Council's old meeting room. The Green Council also established new flags for all of its members, as it had complete control over them, so it just looked nice for all of them to look similar, because aesthetics are great. Because all of the Free Council's laws and acts were inherited by la première ondulation verte, it began to change and alter some of its laws to be conducive to the state's goals. Some of the major laws that were passed related to the following. 1. Damien will be the leader of la première ondulation verte until his resignation. 2. There will be no opposition towards the state. 3. Anti-Sebastianism is endorsed and will be enforced. 4. No one is allowed to forfeit membership without Damien's permission. 5. While Gavin is judge, Damien has final say. 6. Damien decides all laws, acts, and the sword within la première ondulation verte. 7. La première ondulation verte's flags must be added to the inside of every room. 8. La première ondulation verte's flags must be added to the outside of every building. Some of the major acts that were passed relates to the following. 1. No griefing. 2. No attacking others. 3. No stealing. 4. No Sebastian. Some of the major bans that were passed relate to the following. 1. One cannot show any symbols relating to the former Free Council. 2. One cannot mention the former Free Council without express permission from Damien. La première ondulation verte endorsed anti-Sebastianism more than it had ever before, resulting in many more anti-Sebastian flags being placed in more locations, along with his restrictions on entering places being much more enforced. Hatred towards Sebastian was coming from all members of the server, especially Damien and Serena. Gavin defied the state by offering help towards Sebastian, with this being somewhat tolerated by Damien, but it wasn't ideal. Because of the constant hatred towards him, however, Sebastian threatened to leave the server and not play anymore, which made Damien promise him that he would make the house that he asked for in exchange for him staying online. Sebastian's house was created in creative mode by Damien, with him making it based on the skeleton of his old house. The house was reasonably bigger and had 2 stories. Under it, however, Damien began to make a containment center for individuals. There was lava involved in its construction, though, which resulted in the above wooden house being burned multiple times during its construction, causing Sebastian to get very mad. The house was fully constructed with stone replacing blocks where wood had been burned, along with the house generally having a more beaten down and old aesthetic. When Sebastian was about to move into his house, Damien split the house into 2 chunks, giving Sebastian approximately 25% of the house, excluding a basement which he would later expand. The other 75% of the house, however, was given towards a newly established group, being the Green Police / La Police Verte. The formation of the Green Police was made to further enforce anti-Sebastianism, with its main office being the other part of Sebastian's house. The area underneath Sebastian's house would be confirmed to be a bedrock prison cell directly next to lava which, once entered via trapdoor, could never be escaped. Anti-Sebastian flags were hung in the building. The Green Police originally consisted of Damien and Serena, although Christian would later join it. One rule that members of the force were allowed to break was the law regarding hurting others. Members of the force were allowed and encouraged to hurt and fight Sebastian, though they were not allowed to harm anyone else. Sebastian was caught enraged at the realization that the majority of the building he was living in was dedicated to a force that was determined to make his existence as difficult and painful as possible, resulting in him complaining to Damien a lot. Also, this is just random, but around this time the campsite near Blake's house was also established, along with a space for crucifying Sebastian, which was used. The lectern at the campsite also had a red story, so keep that in mind. Because the old library was destroyed, and because Damien didn't want any documents to be lost again, a new library was constructed over the old one, with bits of the old one being kept as a reminder. The new library was built into the ground and featured a much nicer interior. Documents were also much more nicely named and organized within its chests. A jukebox with stall was added, along with a lectern and some barrels with rations. Furthermore, a non-fiction and fiction area were established, allowing for more creative books to be shared, except for Sebastian's fiction book. As a result of the old library being burned to a crisp, Damien was very worried that the new library might succumb to a similar fate in the future. Therefore, he made the archives, which could only be entered via a piston door to the east of Gavin's house's farm, which led to a small area with a puzzle that had to be solved, which would then lead into the corridor that would end at a bedrock box. Inside this bedrock box were all of the state's original documents, forever preserved if anything happened to the new library. Due to there being a very large power imbalance between most members of the server and Damien, and along with Damien having control over everything, Serena would leave the server because it became too corrupt and boring for her to play on. This made Damien sad, but it was necessary for what he wanted to do. All of her property was still hers, and none of it was ever destroyed or taken out of respect. During one late night session, Damien made Sebastian very mad, resulting in him running to try and find a new place to live far away from the Green Hill. This resulted in Damien chasing Sebastian in creative mode for thousands of blocks to the northeast, although this event was not seen by anyone else. It resulted in there being a bit more trust between Damien and Sebastian as it showed dedication, along with how they could still joke around without having anyone killed or seriously hurt. Although the market had failed, Damien still had the want to introduce an economy into the land, resulting in him creating the M. M's were emeralds with a specific name, being M1, with M1 being broken down into 100 Q, being copper ingots. The M was made legal tender, with there being a bank for the M in the estate. Similar to the market, the M was never widely used, both because of Damon's access to creative mode and there being a lack of want for trading and buying goods due to everyone living close to each other. The want for a bigger and more formidable prison cell grew as anti-Sebastianism grew, causing the construction of the underground prison to begin. The underground prison was an area located directly east of Serena's house, with blackstone stairs leading down to it as lava followed from its sides. The prison was made to look very weathered and old, as bits of its sides were missing and a bridge across was gone, resulting in many unfortunate deaths from both Sebastian and Gavin. At the bottom of the staircase was a bridge that was suspended over lava and led to a bedrock room that could only be entered via crawling, which would also lead down to another bedrock room where one would have to set their spawn. From there, one would have to crawl again to reach a final bedrock room with an area of approximately 2 meters squared, with there being no way to escape the room, being the final cell. There was a way to enter the area surrounding the outside final cell, with an entrance being in a cave under the green hill that was often used by Gavin. A button or lever would have to be placed on a specific block, causing TNT to explode, revealing a hidden entrance to the area outside the cell where people could watch whomever was in the cell suffer. Out of mostly boredom, Damien created a really big hole to the northeast of the police station, partially inside the northern mountain. This hole was really deep. Damien built a little bridge above it to make it a bit of a tourist attraction, with him adding lava to the sides to make it look cooler. A ladder was also added to provide safe travel to the bottom of it, with the intention of the hole being that it would be used as a mining area. The hole, however, served no functional role throughout the rest of the server's history. Demand for power grew larger the longer la première ondulation verte existed, with there being threats, particularly from Sebastian, of leaving the server if more power wasn't given to members of la première ondulation verte. Damien then created 3 main provinces within la première ondulation verte, being Browntown / VIII, Terre Perdante, and the Green Hill / Colline Verte, belonging to Gavin and Sebastian respectively, although they were autonomous provinces. Both of them had to abide by the rules of the state, though they were given some permission to make laws and acts specifically for their land. The port, also known as Le Grand Port, was established on top of an already existing port that Gavin had made significantly earlier in the server's life. The port, however, was significantly bigger and more important as it housed the hostel, L'Auberge, a way to Terre Perdante, and the underground travel network. The port became instrumental to not only travel, but also just became a communal space. Underneath a piece of carpet on the floor of the hostel was a long hole that led to an underground tunnel which was intended to be used to torture Sebastian, but this was never done. Browntown, also known as VIII, was founded on the southern mountain, where they mainly contained the mountain itself and a large area to the north of it, though its boundaries were never formally set. Browntown was notable for being very peaceful, with there being little war or bad stuff happening on its land, which differed from most of la première ondulation verte. Notable features in Browntown include its bridge to Terre Perdante, its delivery system with an alarm, its underground travel network, Gavin's house and farm, and, later, the underground bunker. Browntown established the underground travel network, being a network of tunnels that enabled ice-boat transportation, making it easy to go between Browntown and the Green Hill. Furthermore, the delivery system Browntown was established, making it easy to send Gavin things whenever he needed them. Overall, Browntown was a very peaceful and happy area that represented the good in society, except for when Damien built bombs, flying machines, and TNT launchers on it for the lulz. Terre Perdante was founded on a small island that was off the port, with its land being the island itself and no more. To make this clear, Damien built a large stone wall around the island's perimeter to make sure that Sebastian didn't use a single block more land than he was permitted to use. Terre Perdante was notable for its trolling, twin towers, and bamboo industry. It had a connection via bridge to Browntown, along with having the cube. The first building that Sebastian wanted to build in Terre Perdante was a McDonald's, which Damien helped with. The McDonald's proved vital to the province's economy. Immediately afterwards, a very tiny town hall was built, and construction on the twin towers began, which Damien finished and made look better than Sebastian originally planned. One notable event was the planting of 100,000 bamboo, where Gavin and Damien dedicated themselves to planting bamboo on every grass block in Terre Perdante to annoy Sebastian, which it did once it was shown what had been done. He got very annoyed. Another major event was the building of the cube, being a large stone cube that Damien built to the south of the twin towers that he never did anything with, also making Sebastian very annoyed. Blake made a very rare appearance late into the series, wanting to finish her house, which she partially did. Her house was based off a guide, with this guide being unknown, but she never finished her house, although she did add a lot of stuff to her house, particularly finishing her walls, starting a roof, and making the area around her house look more appealing and nice. La première ondulation verte began colonizing the Nether beforehand, but seriously claimed ownership over the Nether at this point. The state added a small hub as the entrance to the Nether, which was greatly needed as it was not very good beforehand. Furthermore, a short poem was added to the hub, being the following. En français. On a terre, ta belle peau brille sur tout le monde. Ta peau est si douce, pourtant elle est rugueuse. Je vous aime tellement. Nous vous aimons tellement. Je vous souhaite le meilleur. Merci beaucoup, Nether. In English. O Nether, your beautiful skin glows upon everyone. Your skin is so soft, yet it is so rough. I love you so much. We love you so much. I wish you the best. Thank you very much, Nether. Inside the Nether was also the book Recollection, written by Damien, giving a short history of the server, alongside his feelings about it. Although the event was mostly notable, La première ondulation verte began to invest in air travel, with the first official airplane taking off of the Browntown summit, with it successfully making its journey to nowhere. A later trip would be scheduled to leave from the building in the Sky Empire to a bit of land south of Tapalante, with this flight also being a success. To promote the success of La première ondulation verte, Damien constructed a firework box on the coast of Browntown for everyone to see. The fireworks began to fire as usual, however, there was quickly a fault in the system, resulting in the box exploding, along with the surrounding land, making a large crater where the box once stood. A dam was quickly built to stop water from falling into the crater. Shortly after the firework box incident, large green plant formations began to appear around the crater, along with outside of the underground transportation network. These formations began to grow with time, getting taller and taller, and eventually emitting light. Furthermore, a large tunnel from the surface downward was made, leading to a blocked-off entrance, with entry into the area being prohibited. Interested, Damien invited Gavin to explore the area with him. They broke off the wooden barriers blocking the entrance, along with the stone barrier that lay behind it, with this leading to a door that had a booby trap, which Gavin fell for. They both, however, made it through the door, which led to a wet, mossy corridor that had a singular destination, a drop downwards. Having no other option, both of them jumped down. They fell into water with soul sand under it, causing them to ricochet around. They both, however, made to land and opened a door, revealing an area with severely oxidized copper walls and quartz tiling along the floor and walls, with a purple ceiling above them. Water flowed along a basin in the ground, and orange lights in the ceiling glowed, showing translucent purple blocks. They both proceeded forward, which led to a completely green area with a transparent floor that suspended them above water, with all state and member flags being hung. Damien then revealed that this was the end of the awesome server. He talked about how it was a fun experience, but that now felt like the time to bring it to an end. Everyone had fun, with there being ups and downs, but it was a generally wonderful experience for everyone. The will and want to build and expand diminished, and it was generally being less fun to play recently. So, at that moment, the server had ended with both Damien and Gavin being the last ones officially online. La première ondulation verte had won the war, but at what cost?